The Flesh of the Orchid, 1948. Introduction. In a world where violence lurks in every shadow and sanity teeters on the edge, James Hadley Chase's The Flesh of the Orchid unravels a story as sharp as a knife and twice as deadly. Published in 1948 by James Hadley Chase, The Flesh of the Orchid is a chilling sequel to No Orchids for Miss Blandish. The novel plunges readers back into a dark, unforgiving world where danger is never far away, and the line between victim and villain constantly blurs. The story follows Carol Blandish, the daughter of a notorious criminal, as she escapes from an asylum and embarks on a desperate journey not just to evade those hunting her, but to outrun the shadows of her past. Inspired by the American gangster era and Chase's fascination with hard-boiled crime fiction, the novel weaves themes of madness, obsession, and relentless pursuit into its gritty narrative. Though less controversial than its predecessor, it still provokes thought about violence and morality in a cruel world. This material has been thoughtfully compiled and presented by Dadson Education, a not-for-profit organization dedicated to literary analysis and education. Through this chapter-by-chapter summary, we will explore how Chase masterfully builds suspense, develops complex characters, and keeps readers questioning who is truly in control, Carol, or the dark forces that seem to dictate her fate. With an atmosphere thick with tension and a protagonist whose mind is as dangerous as the men chasing her, The Flesh of the Orchid forces us to ask, is Carol a tragic heroine or a ticking time bomb? Chapter 1-3, A Woman on the Run. Carol Blandish is not just any runaway, she is the daughter of the infamous Miss Blandish, a name that still echoes fear and scandal. From the very first chapter of The Flesh of the Orchid, James Hadley Chase thrusts readers into Carol's frantic escape from the high-walled asylum where she has been imprisoned, not merely for her own protection, but to shield the world from the unpredictable violence simmering beneath her fragile exterior. Carol is a prisoner of her past as much as of the asylum's cold walls. Her lineage is a curse, the blood of a notorious criminal runs through her veins, and society sees her not as a victim, but as a dangerous remnant of a dark legacy. The tension is palpable as Carol moves through a brutal reality where every shadow might conceal an enemy, and every footstep behind her could belong to a pursuer. Chase wastes no time in setting the novel's tone, sharp, unrelenting, and grim. The suspense builds with every sentence, mirroring Carol's own fractured state of mind. Readers are left questioning whether Carol's fear is justified or a product of her unraveling psyche. Is she being hunted, or is she simply running from the ghosts of her mother's sins? Foreshadowing creeps in like an uninvited guest. The world Carol flees into offers no refuge. Instead, it feels as though danger and betrayal are inevitable. The author subtly hints that Carol's escape is not a triumphant step toward freedom, but the beginning of an even darker, more perilous journey. As the daughter of Miss Blandish, Carol cannot simply disappear into obscurity. Her bloodline ensures that violence will follow her, like a predator stalking its prey. Through these opening chapters, Chase masterfully paints a portrait of a woman running not only from those who wish to capture her, but from herself. Chapter 4-6, The Relentless Pursuit. The chase is on, and it's not just the law that's after Carol Blandish. In The Flesh of the Orchid, James Hadley Chase expands the story's tension by introducing a cast of relentless hunters. These are not noble figures of justice, but a sinister mix of private detectives, mercenaries, and ruthless opportunists, each with their own hidden agenda. Leading the pursuit are the hard-bitten detectives, paid not to rescue Carol, but to silence her. Some want her locked away in the asylum for good, while others, drawn by the dark allure of her family's criminal past, see Carol as a pawn in a much larger game. To them, she is not a person, but a prize or a threat, and either way, she must be caught. The conflict thickens as these hunters clash, not over what's best for Carol, but over how best to use her for their own ends. Some wish to return her to the cold walls of the asylum, restoring the status quo, while others hope to exploit her connection to the Blandish name for money, revenge, or power. Carol's freedom is not their concern, her capture is. The novel paints a bleak picture of a world where justice is a distant concept, and greed drives men to pursue a woman as though she were prey. Chase's narrative style intensifies the suspense. His signature terse, punchy dialogue keeps the story moving at a breakneck pace, with little room for sentiment. Conversations are clipped, confrontations are abrupt, and every word feels weighted with unspoken danger. This stripped-down style mirrors Carol's own disoriented state. There's no time for reflection, only survival. Swift action sequences, sudden bursts of violence, and the constant threat of betrayal create an atmosphere where the reader, like Carol, is never allowed to breathe easy. Through these chapters, Chase doesn't just build a pursuit, he builds a hunt, where Carol is both a victim and a symbol, running from men who see her as everything but human. Chapter 7 to 9, Allies and Enemies. As Carol Blandish's desperate flight continues, the world around her grows even darker and more unpredictable. In The Flesh of the Orchid, James Hadley Chase introduces a new layer of danger, the people Carol encounters along the way. Some seem to offer a helping hand, while others hide knives behind their backs, and it quickly becomes clear that in Carol's world, trust is a luxury she can't afford. These chapters bring a revolving door of characters, a shady drifter who claims to want to protect Carol, a seemingly kind stranger with secrets of their own, and figures from the criminal underworld who recognize the Blandish name and see Carol not as a person, but as an opportunity. Each interaction brims with tension, as Carol is forced to weigh every word and gesture, never sure if she's found an ally or stepped closer to another betrayal. What makes these chapters so gripping is the overwhelming moral ambiguity. No one is entirely good or bad, even those who claim to want to help Carol often have ulterior motives. Is the man offering her shelter truly sympathetic, or does he see Carol as a way to claim a reward? Are the criminals pursuing her motivated by loyalty to old enemies, or are they simply seeking profit? Chase crafts a murky, unforgiving world where everyone seems tainted by greed, fear, or ambition, leaving Carol to navigate a minefield of hidden agendas. Beneath the surface of these external threats lies Carol's own internal struggle. The paranoia she feels isn't just a response to the physical danger she faces, it's rooted in her fragile psyche. She battles a deep sense of loneliness, haunted by her mother's violent legacy and the constant fear that she is doomed to repeat it. Carol teeters on the edge of sanity, and readers are left wondering, is she truly surrounded by enemies, or is her own mind turning every face into a threat? In these chapters, Chase doesn't simply push Carol to run faster, he forces her to question everything and everyone. The world is closing in, and the lines between friend and foe have never been more blurred. Chapter 10 to 12, Secrets and Betrayals. The tension reaches a boiling point in The Flesh of the Orchid as James Hadley Chase unravels a series of dark twists and merciless betrayals. By this stage, Carol Blandish is no longer just a woman on the run, she is a pawn caught in a brutal game of manipulation and deceit, with danger lurking not only in the shadows but within the very people she thought she could trust. These chapters deliver gut-punch plot twists. Just when Carol begins to believe she has found a moment of safety, the rug is pulled from beneath her feet. Allies reveal themselves to be enemies, and those she feared turn out to have motives far more complicated than simple greed or revenge. The novel's world becomes a hall of mirrors, where nothing is as it seems, and Carol is forced to navigate this maze of lies with only her instincts to guide her. What makes these betrayals hit even harder is the depth of Carol's character. She is a woman torn between her inherited toughness, the fierce, unyielding nature passed down from her mother, and a profound vulnerability that keeps her isolated and afraid. Carol is unpredictable, at times broken and desperate, yet capable of sudden bursts of defiance and cunning. This duality makes her both a victim and a threat, a heroine and a ticking time bomb. Readers are left wondering, is Carol a tragic figure fighting for freedom, or is there something darker brewing within her? Chase's narrative style sharpens the suspense. Each chapter ends with a jolt, a shocking revelation, a sudden betrayal, or the looming presence of yet another enemy. These cliffhangers leave readers breathless, unable to stop turning the pages. The novel doesn't give Carol or the audience a moment to catch their breath. Every moment of trust is a risk, and every act of kindness carries a hidden blade. By the end of these chapters, one thing becomes clear: Carol cannot escape betrayal, not from others, and perhaps not even from herself. Chapter 13 to 15, The Final Confrontation. The storm of violence and deception reaches its harrowing peak in The Flesh of the Orchid. In these final chapters, James Hadley Chase delivers a relentless string of confrontations, not just between Carol Blandish and her hunters, but between Carol and the ghosts of her own past. It's a brutal, unforgiving climax where survival comes at a cost, and freedom feels like a distant dream. The climactic moments hit like a gunshot. Carol finds herself cornered by the ruthless pursuers closing in on her and by the weight of her mother's sinister legacy. The final showdown is anything but clean. It's raw, chaotic, and deadly. Violence explodes as the lines between hunter and hunted blur, with Carol fighting not just for her life, but for a chance to reclaim her identity. She is no longer simply running, she is resisting. In a cruel twist of fate, the same fierceness she inherited from her mother becomes her greatest weapon and her most damning curse. Beneath the bloodshed lies a powerful layer of symbolism. The orchid, delicate, beautiful, yet dangerously exotic, mirrors Carol herself. Just as the orchid can both captivate and poison, Carol embodies a tragic duality, a woman shaped by violence yet desperate for peace. The flower represents the life she cannot escape, rooted in the dark soil of her mother's sins, but still reaching for something pure. Every time the orchid is mentioned, it serves as a painful reminder that Carol's identity is tangled with danger, whether she accepts it or not. As the dust settles, Chase leaves readers grappling with an unsettling resolution. Carol may have survived the physical threats against her, but has she truly escaped the psychological prison of her lineage? There's a haunting ambiguity in the novel's closing moments. Does Carol walk away free, or is she forever shackled to the sins of her mother and the violence within herself? The final pages offer no easy answers. Instead, they leave us questioning whether Carol is a victor or merely a new version of the woman she has tried so desperately not to become. In these last, heart-pounding chapters, Chase doesn't just end Carol's story, he leaves us with a chilling echo of its central theme: some legacies are inescapable. Conclusion. In The Flesh of the Orchid, James Hadley Chase masterfully weaves a tale of relentless tension, dragging readers through a psychological minefield where danger lurks in every shadow and trust is a fleeting illusion. Chapter by chapter, Chase constructs a world that is as brutal as it is mesmerizing, a place where sanity is fragile, loyalty is a gamble, and justice feels more like a cruel joke than a guiding force. Carol Blandish's journey is not just a fight for freedom, but a desperate struggle to outrun the ghosts of her own bloodline. Yet, Carol's story is more than a personal tragedy, it is a reflection of the larger themes that define the noir genre. In Chase's world, there are no heroes, only survivors. The lines between right and wrong blur, and the past is never truly buried. Just like the orchid that symbolizes Carol herself, beautiful but deadly, the novel reminds us that danger often hides behind delicate facades, and escape is rarely as simple as running away. Ultimately, The Flesh of the Orchid leaves readers with a haunting truth: in Carol's world, even orchids have thorns, and survival comes at a steep price. This content was brought to you by Dad-Son Education, a not-for-profit organization dedicated to providing insightful literary discussions. If you found this material thought-provoking, make sure to stay connected for more compelling stories. Pass this along to others who appreciate gripping narratives, and let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.